So if you could go ahead and take a seat or find a spot that you know you're going to hang out. We purposely designed this to be a bit more informal. Very similar to the What's Brewing formats held at the Deschutes Brewery Tap Room. But tonight we have the luxury of being in the Mountain Room. The sunshine came back out for you, probably blessing you with a rainbow out there. Ooh, we're almost there. I'm ranking us at about a 7.5. There's a 9. We're about 9.
Oh my God.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So if I could have your attention, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and good evening. And once again, I'd love to give a big thank you and a shout out to the Deschutes Brewery for honoring us with this amazing view and time and service up here at the Mountain Room. Would you give them a big round of applause, please? And as you know, this is a part of our What's Brewing series that we generally hold the first Tuesday of the month at the Tap Room at Deschutes Brewery. And it's because of Miller Lumber and SunWest Builders who support that series all year round that we're able to bring these at a reasonable price and with good conversations and topics and consistently. So a big round of applause to those sponsors as well, please. But of course, tonight is extra special. It's an opportunity for us to engage with our city and our county and take it to the next level in this room. So there will be a time for you to also be a part of that conversation. But the people who have helped make this event go to the next level is our presenting sponsor, Mid-Oregon Credit Union. I know, right? And with that, I have a little something to share with you. Having been the president and CEO of Mid-Oregon Credit Union for 23 years, when he started, there were only 10 employees, just under 6,000 members, 1 location, and 19 million in assets. Now there are 230 million in assets, 8 locations in Central Oregon, with over 25,000 members and 87 employees. And as one, and I know this by knowing this individual, devoted to the philosophies and principles credit unions are built upon, he helped shape the strong core values which contribute to the stability and growth it is seen today. So he has served as the president and board member of EDCO, treasurer of Rotary of Bend, past chair and committee member of the Northwest Community Association, and I know that their motto of good friends and great service has a lot to do with why he also has an amazing family. Please help me welcome the president and CEO, Bill Anderson.
Thank you, Jenny. So I don't usually get out and do these things. They keep me in my office, but my marketing guy, Kyle Frick, kind of forced me out. So here I am doing this. It's particularly fitting. We try to sponsor this type of event each year because the city and the county, all the cities, all the counties are critically important to our region, obviously, and to partnering with Mid-Oregon Credit Union. They're a big part of our success. So thank you very much for those relationships. Tonight we're going to have our updates for the State of the City, State of the County address. The format will be about 20 minutes from the city and 20 minutes from the county, followed up by some question and answers. So there are cards at your seats, so I encourage you to fill those out, and we'll also be around with the microphone. With that, I want to introduce our panelists and other folks that are in the community, or in the area. So we have, first of all, Sally Russell, our Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for being here. Eric King, the City Manager. And for the county, Tammy Bainey, Commissioner, Vice Chair. Alan Unger, the chair, and Mr. Tony DeBone, commissioner as well. And keeping them all honest is Tom Anderson, the county administrator. Or maybe vice versa. In addition to that, we have some very important people here. We're honored to have Ken Mulinex, the mayor of La Pine. John Hummel, our district attorney, is here. Sheriff Nelson, thank you for being here. And I heard a rumor that our representative, State Representative Jim Giller, was going to be here. I haven't seen him yet.
All right.
Okay.
And Assessor Scott Lang.
Oh, okay, and the assessor, Scott. There, hi, Scott. Is there anyone that I missed, or? Okay. Well, here we go. So I think we'll start off. Jamie, are you kicking off with the city, or?
We are kicking off with the city, absolutely, and we'll kick off with Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Well, welcome everyone. Is that working yet? I'll try that. Is this working yet?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
There we go. Okay, I don't want to blast you out here. Good. Good evening. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm representing the city of Bend. So our job tonight is to educate you and to entertain you too. I'm looking forward to that especially. So who's got the slide clicker here? We're going to move to our first slide. Let's see here if we can get this going. It's always kind of an art to get going. So I'm going to kick this off. We wanted to start with some of the topics that you have probably seen as headlines in this community, and that's really what's prompted us to address everything that we're going to talk about tonight. But before we really get started, what we wanted to do is take 60 seconds, and we're going to time it here. So we're going to give you 60 seconds to just tell us what city issues are on your mind, and Ben Hempson, our business advocate, is going to scribe them for us. So, are you ready? Go. Who's got a question? Housing. Sign code. Is that all? UGB. Roads. Anything else? Nothing else? Traffic.
Fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility.
Safe passage.
Safe passage. Ooh, that's kind of Parks and Rec, but.
Pot.
But whoops, pot. Anything else?
Sewer.
Sewer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. So that was good. We kept Ben busy. So if we don't get to these during our presentation, what we'll do is you can even bring them up in Q&A, or if it's too complex, then we'll actually pitch some answers back out to the chamber, and we'll get back to it later on. So here we go. So this is really what the community cares about. I have one more question for you. How many people think that the city councilors earn $2,000 a month? $1,500 a month? How about $200 a month? There you go, okay. So we all live within the world of constraints. State rules, politics, dollars, and often the world we work in really requires compromise. So sometimes that has to do with the funds that are available to us, and there are lots of hard choices that we have to make. And so here we are. Let me talk to you about some of the key issues that we're moving through right now as a council and as a community. Economic development. Post-recession, the city didn't go bankrupt. We feel really fortunate that we made it through fiscally stable. We're just about finished catching up. Our economy is much more diversified than it was. We're less reliant on the construction industry. Our high-tech jobs have grown 6.8%. Bioscience, 10.5%. Outdoor industry jobs have grown 5.3% in the past year. And interestingly enough, I didn't know this, but I'm always learning, food processing, which doesn't include beer brewing, has grown 8.2% just in the past year. So picky bars, Kale Chips, Hum Kombucha. Those are some of the businesses we're talking about here. Our urban growth boundary proposal is ready for the last round of public hearings. We're off to the state this summer, and we're going to go more into the UGB a little later. Affordable housing, workforce housing. We're doing a lot of work on this and have done a lot of work on this on council. It's sort of an ongoing challenge, I think, for our city and certainly throughout the state of Oregon. Here's some of the things we're doing. We're working on disposal of city-owned properties for affordable housing. We loosened a lot of the regulations to allow new housing models, so for instance, the cottage code, and to incentivize affordable housing, so a density bonus. We adopted some SDC exemptions for qualified affordable housing projects, and we've awarded funding requests that exempted $750,000 that helped produce 162 new affordable housing units. We also restored the affordable housing fee, and I was told by, I think it was Carolyn, that this actually was a huge help during the recession and actually kept a lot of our buildings building during that time. I'm going to talk a little bit about infrastructure here. So, and we've done a lot of work on infrastructure, and especially in the last 4 years since I've come on council. We finished our surface water project, our pipes, our intake facility, our filtration plant. All these new construction projects are now finished and they're under operation. So we have safe, reliable drinking water, dual source system, sewer. We work with our Sewer Infrastructure Advisory Committee, a very solid, extensive community process. Was anyone here participate on SIG? Thank you. Yes. And out of that, we figured out where the pinch points are, where the pumps are, and we actually know going forward now how to grow and expand our system. 33% of the people who live in the city of Bend are still on septic. And at some point, as we expand the Southeast Interceptor, we're going to have to somehow address this problem right in the middle of town. Hello? Anyway, a couple more things. So one of the things that we just worked on today, the Southeast Interceptor is now rocking ahead, and we're going to be in the middle of 27th Street next year. So we've sort of gotten the Colorado lift station. We're working towards the end of that project in McKay Park. The Force Main is up. We're going to come down Arizona. We've seen the paving that's going on. We're almost done with those projects. So there's a lot of infrastructure work in this town going on right now. And again, we're catching up with ourselves, and we're really taking ourselves into the future at this point. So with that, we can turn it over to Eric.
Great. So Eric King, City Manager, and I always want to use opportunities like this to provide some just background information about funding. Fiscal responsibility came up on the list. So it's important to have some context of how we're all funded, because we have somewhat of a decentralized local government system here in Central Oregon. So this shows the dollar that you pay in property taxes, probably a little more than that, but the city of Bend is about 20% of the taxes, property taxes that you pay. The balance, schools are about 40%, Deschutes County 15%, and you can read on the slide the difference there. I think one of the things that came up with the fuel tax vote is a lot of confusion around how local government services are deployed, what investment the community is making with their tax dollars, where it's going. There's definitely a lot of confusion with Parks and Rec. That is a separate taxing district. So each of these agencies have their own governance structure, their own taxing district, and that tax rate, Scott Langton is here because we could get into this in the Q&A, really provides some challenges for us as an organization. So that's why I mentioned this. And on your chair is a handout that mirrors this slide that details out the funding that the city receives. So in really basic terms, and this gets kind of complex because we've got about 45 different funds, but really simply we have restricted funds and unrestricted or discretionary funds. The city receives about $140 million in revenue per year. 2/3 of that revenue is restricted, meaning that it's a fee for service. The water sewer bill that you're paying needs to be used to operate and maintain that water or sewer system. Same thing with system development charges. Those are impact fees that developers pay to account for growth, that their project has on growth. That needs to be used for capital projects. That's that are for growth, not for maintenance. And then where council has the most discretion, where we spend most of our time with our resources, is prioritizing our resources, is the general fund. And that's about a third, $40 million, which is very different than the state of Oregon, for example, where 85% of the revenue goes into a general fund, and that's then prioritized. So let me talk about that general fund. Police and fire account for over 75% of the expenditures in the general fund. The remaining 25% is split amongst transit. We provide transit service, that's done through a regional organization. We also provide long-range planning services like the urban growth boundary, code enforcement, and then customer service for planning and private development engineering. To keep fees at a reasonable level, we buy down that customer service. And then streets is about 50% of that discretionary, the street maintenance, and I'll talk a little bit more in more detail about that. On the other side of your handout is the full pie of the expenses that we have related to our core services. So I won't go into detail here, but narrowing in on the general fund, and that's again where council has the most discretion, where we prioritize those services. The primary revenue coming into the general fund are property taxes. Over 65% are property taxes. So this chart is an apples-to-apples comparison of our other Central Oregon cities that are in over 5,000 in population. When you compare our tax rate, and this is significant here, our tax rate is $2.80 per 1,000 tax assessed value. When you take that and normalize this data and look at the property tax revenue, divide it by the number of folks in each of those towns, the per capita revenue, Red Bend is significantly lower. When you look at Redmond, we're about 60% of the revenue. If we had the same tax rate that Redmond has, we would receive an additional $13 million per year than we do today. So some significant challenges within our general fund because of Measures 5 and 50, and the voters were unhappy with the property tax system and passed those measures in the 90s that froze everybody's rate. Bend just happened to be frozen at a very low level. So this has the reason why I explain this, because it has a connection to our street funding issue, which has been a very hot topic. And so I wanted to tell a little bit of a story on how we've evolved over the past 15 years with our streets, but also some of our other general fund services like public safety, police, and fire. So this graph shows you the trends over the past 10 years. So the trend has been, we've had population growth, we've had revenue growth, we've had growth in terms of the assets that we maintain for streets. All of that has been tracking at about 30% over that 10-year period. So that's the blue line. This has a pointer. The middle line. The challenge has been cost. The cost for paving our streets, those material costs, have gone up significantly, upwards of 300%. So that's asphalt, the cost of material. We contract most of the service out. So when you have those limits placed on you with your revenue, the local discretionary revenue that you have, what you're facing then is a declining level of service, and that for streets comes in the form of Pavement Condition Index, or PCI. And so that has been seen a steady decline over the last 10 years to a citywide average of about 68 on a scale of 0 to 100. So some of the story and the actions that the city has taken over the past 15 years, there's been attempts at asking the voters for additional funding, starting in 2000 with a transportation levy that failed. In 2004, a transportation district to begin funding a transit system. And then that streak continued. In 2008, we were closer to passing a transportation district, but nonetheless, voters rejected 3 times the creation of a transportation district or funding. Then the recession set in, and council needed to make some tough choices. And so instead of laying off police and fire, they made cuts to street maintenance. And that was a conscious decision in 2009. At the same time, there was a citizen committee formed to look at options for funding transportation, and they recommended a utility fee, a fee that would get added onto your utility bill, $4 a month. That was not supported by council to move forward. So that continued. There was some funding that was provided by the state. The state passed a transportation package in 2009. It was fully implemented in 2011. But at that same time, we began to see impacts on public safety services. Our response times were creeping up. And so we, again, tasked a citizen group to help us come up with options. They, again, recommended a transportation utility fee, and yet again, there was not the support to move that forward. 2014, we restored the cuts that had been made to street funding from the general fund as we were climbing out of the recession. And at the same time, the problems with public safety were still there. There was a measure that the voters approved in 2014 to improve funding for our fire service. Then in 2015, Council really put a focus on transportation, not just street maintenance, but on all things moving goods and services around Bend. And a part of that was improving the pavement condition and, of course, the rejection in March of the fuel tax. So really, where are we now? So I know there's a lot of concern about roads, and again, on your chair is a map of the street preservation work that's taking place this construction season. As you can see, a lot of one-time funds were used to support deployment of resources. You're going to see probably more than you've ever seen recently of paving happening all across the city. So about 10% of our system, we have 800 lane miles. About 80 of those lane miles are going to be resurfaced this construction season. Some of that's already started. And you can see a lot of that was funded with those one-time funds. That is not going to sustain us. We have established goals for funding. The citizen group that helped to recommend that fuel tax was recommending $6 million of annual revenue. And the fuel tax was meant to fill in about $2.7 million of that $6 million. So what we did is we accounted for the growth in the general fund with increase in property tax revenue and increase in transit room tax that you see in the maroon bar, but it wasn't enough to fill that gap and get to $6 million. So we've ratcheted back a short-term plan with the rejection of the fuel tax to say, how do we get to at least $4.3 million, which prevents streets from getting any worse? So that funding gap is about $1 to $1.3 million. The council has been working over the last few months to fill that gap. We're close, about 3/4 of the way there. We plan to finish up this summer after we have a better picture of revenue from property taxes and transient room tax to fill that gap. But still, there's more long-term work to be done. We'll be leading on our local delegation pretty heavily at the 2017 session for a transportation package, and that's a need really statewide. I mean, you're hearing the presidential candidates right now focus on infrastructure, but again, I think we have to be very cognizant that we can't just be reliant on the state or federal government to fix our problems. We have to come up with some local solutions. So the other part of the long-term plan is continuing to look at our general fund and that pie chart that you saw and prioritizing those services as we develop our next 2-year budget. So with a focus on streets, I think sometimes we get lost in some of the really significant accomplishments that are happening, especially with public safety. And just to highlight, I touched upon the voter-approved levy in 2014. What that's done is it's provided some funding that has helped us reduce response times. Our response times were at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, and they're at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, shaving 2 minutes off. And we're doing that by we didn't ask the voters, hey, can we have some additional funds to improve response times by doing just the same thing? We said, we're going to do something different. And so we deployed what we call a basic life support unit, paired up with these quick response vehicles that you see, much more nimble. We're deploying the right resource to the right call and doing it in a much more cost-effective way. For about 50%, about half of the cost of a normal full-staffed fire and paramedic, we're getting out to those calls, those basic level calls. And we did that by working really with our employees. We've maintained really excellent relationships with our collective bargaining units. This was not popular with the Fire Association, their peers. It was with our group because we built that relationship and we built the trust. And so we now have non-union folks working alongside our union folks, and that was no small feat. With our police department, the trend here is our calls are getting much more complex. Our mental health, our suicide is a real issue here in Central Oregon. And so our police officers are deploying themselves differently, just as we are with fire. We are training our officers. We have over 60 officers trained in mental health crisis training. We also use a multidisciplinary team and work with our partners like the Sheriff's Office to help drive down those calls and take a more community-based approach. And what's resulting in that is a reduction in use of force. So I think the community should be really proud of our approach, our community-based approach in dealing with those that are vulnerable in our community. And then lastly, before I turn it back over to Sally, this looks like Atari. This screen here, I don't know what it is. It's the green screen. This is what we are currently using for technology. This is our operating system, enterprise resource planning software that has been in place since the 1990s. And I can't emphasize enough how significant it is to replace this system. We are all cheering for that to occur, but it's much more than just technology, a software upgrade. This is completely reinventing how we organize city government, how we restructure ourselves. It's more about efficiencies and reducing the need to hire more staff in the future. So we're excited. We're in the midstream of that project. So with all that going on, a lot of accomplishments, challenges, some of those financial constraints, we're happy to do that in the context of being one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And so with more on growth, I want to turn it back over to Sally.
Thanks. Okay, growth. So over the past couple decades, we've grown from 52,000 to around 87,000, which was what the Census Bureau estimate just released a couple weeks ago. So that's about 6.4 people a day, each day. Sometimes we're keeping up with the demands of the city, and that's, for a while, that's all we could do. As I said, we went backwards, now we've caught up. But it's time to really plan for our future, and the city's really now in a position to do that. So as we face continued growth, we need to figure out from a transportation goal standpoint how we better connect ourselves, because the old core grid was sort of built around the river, built around Pilot Butte. Some of the roads running east to west have 4 different names. It's confusing. And, but we have some opportunities here. I mean, as we grow forward, we can create complete neighborhoods that have access to a variety of housing and housing types for all income levels, with close proximity to grocery stores and parks and restaurants and employee and service opportunities. We can also achieve a balance between east and west sides of Bend through these goals of connectivity and complete neighborhoods. These are some of the opportunities in front of us. This is a rendering from the Central West Side Plan, and I want to take a moment here and talk about how community involvement the city's really focused on using community involvement and input to really shape the city moving forward. So it's always, you see a rendering like this and some people go, well, it looks so different, and yet I think the way a community really eases into the future is creating visions as people sort of get used to sort of the new sense of what could be, and get excited about the opportunity about what can be. And we know too that from a millennial is going to look at this image and react really differently from somebody who's maybe been here, their entire life. And so we need to include all those people in the discussions as we create what the future looks like. So some of the ways we're looking at engaging with the community are neighborhood associations. We have a lot of ad hoc committees. So for instance, the parking study is underway right now. And we also have the Bend Economic Development Advisory Board that just met this morning. So we are going to look different in the future as Bend. Part of it is that there are going to be a lot of creative infill and development. So a great example, another great example actually of community involvement and progressive planning for growth was the UGB process. Very robust public engagement, and we really wanted to take these community values that we as a community recognize today and what really draws people and keeps people in Bend. And so some of those I'm going to list right now. So natural resource protection, livable and complete neighborhoods, and efficient use of resources. So this is directly out of the UGB process. We have what we've identified as 9 opportunity areas. Some of the key people, key places, for instance, I am down in Southeast Bend. A lot of people have talked about the opportunity to sort of have a mini downtown area there, which will be huge for these people as these areas develop, where you can have your services and your jobs and your grocery stores, and you don't have to travel very far. And that will really help some of the limited areas some of the areas in Bend where our infrastructure is really constrained. The Corpine side, the west side, again, where OSU Cascades is going to drop in. A little bit of really good planning right now can make a huge difference for how we experience our future, our city in the future. And this is also a more economically and efficient way to approach infrastructure. And infrastructure, as we are discovering, costs a lot. And when our sewer, for instance, was originally built, the federal government footed that almost that entire bill. Now it's pretty much on the backs of our community, and that's a big stretch for all of us. And so we need to be more creative and even more efficient in the way we use our dollars to build that infrastructure. I want to talk a little bit too about multifamily housing, because as we become more dense and we try to address this workforce housing issue that's so important for Bend, we realize that we need to have more infill and more vertical infill. And this is a change to the status quo. So far at the moment, multifamily accounts for a small portion of residential units relatively. So a little more than half of the total units in 2015 were multifamily. But there are a lot of multifamily homes in the works. So in mid-April, there were 1,112 units of multifamily housing under construction, and there are another 846 under review. So we're really accelerating our infrastructure there.
So I want to then just kind of wrap up and talk about how do we execute this strategy? How do we ensure that Bend remains affordable and accessible to all, and do that within some of the constraints that we have, and do it efficiently? We talk about efficient use infrastructure investments and more affordable or workforce housing. And so this slide really gives you some context as to the cost side of the equation and what's really driving. A lot of these things are converging. Our land costs has taken a pretty wild swing throughout the recession. Land costs are almost double from what they were just a few years ago. Still a little bit below pre-recession levels, but nonetheless, they're a big driver. I did include our permitting costs, which include system development charges or fees that you pay for both multifamily and single family, which does account for about 8 to 10% of your costs, of those costs. Construction varies with multifamily at 80% and single family at 60%. And then it's the land development costs that I said has a lot of fluctuation. So it's important to be cognizant, and as the city, we want to not just stay in a regulatory world, but understand the market, the private market, and what it's doing, and how to leverage that, and how to leverage these growth plans to produce more affordable workforce housing. So I think this just provides you with some of the cost background. We are going to ask the Chamber to really help us follow up and do more outreach and education on this later this summer. So more to come, and I'm happy to get into discussions in the Q&A on this. But just to close off, so we mentioned a lot of stress and strain on the on just with all the growth that's occurring right now. So we look at kind of this hierarchy of needs of the city, and it starts with those basic kind of infrastructure and public safety. We need to make sure that we've got good working infrastructure. You can turn on the tap and water comes out and flush it and goes down. We take that for granted. So ensuring that that is a foundation of what we do, built off of then our public safety, our fire and police services, and having an efficient government that has, you know, a predictable process for citizens to interact with it, to be able to solve problems, address issues. Then we get into that economic development work, land entitlement, and where we're going. How do we leverage those targeted sectors that Sally started with on bioscience, high tech? We've got this new economy that's very much emerging in Bend, and how do we align the organization to be able to help leverage that strength? But that's just the kind of the basic stuff. We've got the community also saying we want the city to get involved in addressing. We're concerned about all this change that's happening, livability issues, and that means a lot of different things. It could be parking. It could mean a job. It could mean just that compatibility between businesses and neighbors. The environment. We're very concerned about what's happening with our natural environment. We're an amazing playground. We want to preserve that. Same thing with social services. We've got this issue with a safety net, that we've got missing pieces of that safety net here in Bend, and we often are having our first responders kind of catch some of that, and not the most efficient way to deal with that. So we have these other external pressures, and so our challenge for the city, and I'll leave you with 3 things, is one, to really continuously prioritize our basic services and deliver those in the most cost-effective way. Secondly, goes back to the transportation challenge that we have. We have had a difficult road, no pun intended, over the last 15 years in dealing with this transportation issue. And yes, the paving is one piece of it, but it's also about traffic and moving people around efficiently, giving folks choices, connecting communities, really building out this vision of a complete neighborhood, better balance in east versus west. So the transportation system is a great way to leverage that, going back to those basic services. And then lastly, it's really this partnership framework to help accomplish this. You know, this idea that we just sit back, the UGB's expanded, and then development just goes and pays and makes everything happen. If you look at some of our other communities that have expanded their UGBs, look, for example, in the Portland metro area, a lot of that land is sat fallow because it's so expensive to develop that infrastructure. And so we need to think differently at the city about how do we partner and build out this community, the backbone of the infrastructure needed to keep land affordable, to keep opportunities for affordable housing, to keep people in bed. So, and that needs to be done by us getting outside, again, of our regulatory framework, working with our partner public agencies, the business community, to help accomplish that. So a lot of work ahead. So just kind of again leave you with those 3 focus areas, and I'll turn it back over to Jamie.
Absolutely. How about a round of applause for it? Go ahead and kick it up. I know that the county is ready to take on some things, and I want to welcome Tom Anderson, their administrator. So welcome, Tom.
I know I'm a really, really bad Vanna White, but my job is to kind of set up my bosses, the commissioners, for talking about what's happening with the county. Every year, our commissioners and admin staff gathers in January or February to go on a retreat and talk about the major issues that are going on in our county. And I should say that obviously our jurisdiction spans a much greater geographic area than the city of Bend, but recognizing the audience tonight, we're going to try and limit some of the things we talk about to the area, to the greater Bend area. But again, on the retreat, the board and staff talks about what are the major issues facing our community right now. What are the challenges, perhaps the issues that we need to solve? What are the capacity of our county government to deliver on those issues? And they come up with 6 overarching goals that really cover the breadth of what a county government does, which is different than a city. There are things that we are mandated to provide from the state of Oregon, and other things that are more urban-like, given the extensive unincorporated population that we have in our county. But at any rate, these 6 items here: safe communities, healthy people, resilient economy, natural resource stewardship, quality customer service, and effective asset management, is really distilled down the 6 basic things that we do as a county. In addition to that, the commissioners come up with about half a dozen objectives underneath each of these 6 overarching goals that cover really those issues that are most prominent, most important to our constituents, the public, for us to solve. They are still fairly broad, but they are a little more specific in terms of the individual or the items underneath each of those 6 broad goals that are then, once they are done, once our commissioners are done, they are given to our department directors, who then go back and come up with a whole set of very specific either measurements, performance measurements that gauge our progress in achieving those objectives underneath those goals, or in many cases very specific deliverables, either a capital project completed, initiative done. In some cases, you know, a major milestone in getting to the point where we can tell the commissioners and the public how we've done in accomplishing those. So once those are done, the specific deliverables from the departments, that's built into our proposed budget for the year, and departments build their financial recommendation around the deliverables there. And then finally, each year in the ensuing year, once a quarter, we come back and tell the commissioners how we've done. And we are under very strict orders not to, you know, make it a, you know, a love fest and glow about the positive things that we've done, but also to be upfront and tell them where we're maybe falling short or we haven't quite been able to deliver. So what we're going to do tonight, each of the commissioners is going to take 2 of our overarching goals and not go through the whole thing, but give you 2 or 3 examples, both of achievements in FY16, meaning the current year we're in, of where we've been able to achieve those goals, objectives, and deliverables, and then for FY17, the coming year, what we think are perhaps the highest priorities for all of you, our community in the Greater Bend area, to go after and try and accomplish next year. So with that, I believe Commissioner Boehne is going to lead off on Safe Community.
He talked about a retreat as though we went to Hawaii. So we were at the lovely Historical Museum for Deschutes County, which was awesome. I was worried about a ghost sighting in the ladies' room. But then we were at Solid Waste year before that, and then we were, so the retreat sounds more like Hawaii, but I just want to be clear. I am so excited about the questions, so we're going to blaze through some of this as well. But I did want to call out that Council Member Dennis Scott from Lapine is here as well, so I wanted to make sure that you get a little love. And Fair and Expo Director Dan Despotopoulos is here, Deputy Director Tracy Scott is here. We have Nick Lilac in the back from CDD. We also have Chris Doty here. We mentioned the assessor and the sheriff, but really proud of our team, so I wanted to do that very quickly. So 2016, and I'm taking on Safe Communities. First of all, 911. The voters came forward and supported 911. Many of you in this room were supporters of permanent funding for 911. That was able to not just take a 2 tax rates, one a levy, one a permanent rate, and blend them together and give us permanent funding similar to the Sheriff's Office, but it also allowed us to have the opportunity to enhance the radio system that we have that is in deep need of revitalization and making sure that that system meets the needs of local agencies. I think what's really cool about 911 is that each one of the user agencies would have to be spending money on dispatch, and they're not, because in 1990 this community came together and said we want to work well together, and we have been. And I think it's a testimony to that great work and the commitment of those that serve us at 911, which truly is the backbone of our public safety system. That 9 minutes could be far more, well it's 7 now, without 911 being able to do what they do. So they take 60,000 emergency calls a year and 230,000 non-emergency calls, and having sat at the console, which they call flying it, you know, folks call in for directions, they call in for forms, they call in. It's interesting. You know, please tell your neighbor there's a non-emergency line as well. But anyway, incredibly dedicated folks that are part of that team. So 2 tax rates combined, and huge savings in the long run for the county and for the city as well. So Sheriff's Office. I mentioned the stable funding 2006. One of the blessings that we have in our budget is you won't see the Sheriff's Office in our general fund. And that's because of the faith and confidence from the voting public to put in permanent funding for the Sheriff's Office in 2006. So that gives us the opportunity to be able to not have to worry about the ebbs and flows. And it's a challenge for the city, and I'm sensitive to that. But we're quite proud of the team that we have, and the sheriff who's taken on the reins there. One thing that we do, and we do well, is mutual aid to other organizations. And we had an organization in Harney County that found themselves with a really unique situation and an unfortunate situation. And so our team and several members of his staff, the sheriff included, spent more than 1,700 hours of support and assistance to Harney County. And what does that mean? It means that also when Deschutes County or the city of Bend or any other community is in need, they will be there for us as well. So I'm very proud of the team for making that happen. Emergency disaster prep and planning. So next week, the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, county and city staff will all be part of the Cascadia Rising exercise. I wear another hat, which is chair of the Transportation Commission for the state of Oregon, and I've read one too many reports. That will happen. You know, we can debate global warming, but this one is going to happen. It's when it will happen and how prepared will we be. Redmond will be the FEMA staging area, so it means a great deal for our communities to make sure that we're doing what we can to be prepared. The District Attorney's Office, we've had some changes there, and I'm excited to tell you that the office is functioning really well. Incredible cases, the child abuse cases, the death investigations, that I mean, the assaults and the homicides that we've had. Just you all, you know, hear the news, maybe you read it, maybe you just listen to it, but it's happening. And if our district attorney's office is not functioning well, it creates an incredible backlog and a huge barrier to public safety in our community. So super proud of the folks that are spending their time and committing their careers to that work. So I also now, marijuana, somebody mentioned pot. As you know, we've been deep in the weeds, but on bomb. And so Measure 91, I don't know if you've all read it, I know it verbatim, and it did not talk about large-scale gross processing and all of that. It talked about what? Personal use. So, enter House Bill 3400, and that is where the legislature, in their great infinite wisdom, decided to tweak things a little bit. And I don't know if that, you know, matters or works with the, you know, with the pun with the marijuana. But anyway, so we had the option to opt out. Well, I know it's kind of hot in this room, and everybody's had a beverage. I don't want you to fall asleep. Okay, so we had the opportunity to either opt in or opt out, meaning we're going to impose regulations and not send it to a vote of the people, or we are going to send it to a vote. And we put together a marijuana advisory committee, and that group of individuals really did some incredible heavy lifting to come up with reasonable regulations that we felt that could be imposed. The unfortunate thing is, as much as we would want to say maybe that marijuana should go away or not, depending on where you are in the church choir, but the bell's been rung, and I can hear it ringing right now. Medical marijuana, we have over 1,700 licensed marijuana grow facilities or grow sites in Deschutes County. Those will not be going away no matter what we do. So it creates an issue for us in terms of finding balance and protecting our community as well as educating our community. So we have had first reading on what we consider to be time, place, and manner sensible regulations. And again, this is in the unincorporated area. It does not affect in the community. It does not affect you personally for your own personal use or grow. But it does mean that, you know, we have a lot of areas in the Tumalo region that are directly affected with hoop houses, and a lot of those hoop houses are not covered with any sort of a shade, and so it looks like the mothership landed next door, and you know, it's lit up at night. And so anyway, challenges. So how did I do on marijuana? Was that good? All right, okay. Yeah. Still down about a year's worth of work. Okay, so 2017, what are our opportunities coming up? So completing the construction. We have radio towers that we're going to be constructing, deploying the new countywide radio and data communication system, and that's with all of our partners, City of Redmond, the city or unincorporated communities of Sisters and Black Butte as well. By partnering with this infrastructure, this had a price tag of $13 million about 2 years ago, and through the great work of the director at 911, of which is not ours, it is ours, that director and his team and other partners in the user board were able to shave that down to $6.5 million. So right out of the gate, partnering with the state of Oregon actually worked and created an incredible cost savings, and I shouldn't sound surprised, but I am. But it did work, and you know, you just never know how those things will turn out. We want to make sure that our community is protected and not be whacked by, you know, the things that might happen at the state. But this was the right thing to do. And that new system is also being built with new capacity so that we can partner with other public works departments, but school districts as well. And I think I saw Co-Chair Sherry help here somewhere. So anyway, I want to call her out to you in the back. Okay, so marijuana regulations and legislation. So the regulation, putting those into place, what is that going to mean? And code enforcement. So unlike in the cities, we are not going to have an onset of tax revenue. It's taxed at the dispensary. So for the county, you know, just in short, we're going to shoulder a lot of the impact, but not receive a lot of the benefit in terms of the financial revenue. So getting through that. And then we are the Board of Health. The Board of Commissioners is the Board of Health. So we don't want to miss the fact that public health and educating our youth and making sure that they're making good choices and that we are keeping this new legalized drug out of their, or legalized product, I guess, out of their hands is something that we take very seriously, and we're working on a prevention campaign focused on teens. Then last I will say, as the population grows, Sheriff's Office is of course going to be looking at patrol and jail staff, parole and probation, the District Attorney's Office, all of those public safety systems as the communities grow will have an increased need for support as well. So next on to, and this is not going quite as fast as we had thought, but I'm trying to talk fast. Okay, so Regional Health Improvement Plan doesn't sound all that exciting, but we did a regional health assessment. And so working with Jefferson County, Crook County, of which we know that a lot of folks maybe work in one community and live in another. And so looking at things such as housing, transportation, education, workforce, how do we, where are we in terms of a baseline? And then we worked with a number, 500 or so community partners, city, county, you name it, nonprofit organizations, and put together the Regional Health Improvement Plan. That sets out for a 4-year timeline objectives and outcomes, measurable outcomes that we want to be able to achieve, and we are being graded on to make sure that our community is healthy as it can be. So the focus is creating a healthier Central Oregon, and we heard from the Mayor Pro Tem and the City Manager that housing and transportation, those pieces are critical to the economic vitality of our community. Increased number of veterans that are served. We're on track to serve 3,500 veterans this year, which is a 10% increase from last year. We do have a veteran service office. We also are seeing an increased number in assisted living visits as well as home visit requests. You know, those that have served us, and there's just nothing more that the county, we won't do to make sure that those folks have their needs met. So making sure that that office is well funded, and we do fund additional staffing that the state is not able to provide. We also are increasing our awareness around ACEs scores, and we also are we're the mental health board, we're the Board of Health for Public Health, and we also are the Mental Health Authority, so we have both of those responsibilities. So ACEs is the Adverse Childhood Experience, and making sure that those techniques and that research is instilled into our school-based health centers. And United Way is taking the lead as a community partner in making sure that we're doing a community-wide look at ACEs and the impacts on our youth and even in the workplace on individuals that you may have in your own staffs. So trauma-informed care. Mental health crisis management. I will tell you that out of the Regional Health Improvement Plan, mental health is a crisis, is at a crisis point in a lot of ways in our community. So it's showing up in the Sheriff's Office, it's showing up in the emergency room. We're seeing, the tragedy that occurred at the High Desert Museum. So our crisis team works very closely with the City of Bend as well, and the response to the High Desert Museum was one example, as well as our team went over to the UCC shooting in Umpqua Community College. And so again, that mutual aid piece of how do we make sure that we're taking care of other communities, because when we have a need, we know they will come here as well. And then Skyliners Road, our favorite road with the City of Bend when we've had to have events and such. And so hats off to Chris Doty in the back there and his team in partnership with the City of Bend, making sure that that popular cycling route has the expanded bike lanes and different things that the community, through very robust and spirited discussion, was able to get movement on. So next, opportunities in the health side, assessment of a crisis receiving center and a sobering station, which won't be just for me, but the sheriff is working diligently. I will tell you that the crisis receiving center and a sobering station is something that's been on the books for probably 15 years. I've personally known of it for 12 and heard it was 3 years before me, and hats off to the sheriff for taking that on and really championing how can, our team works very diligently to get to yes. We try not to see barriers, and we don't hear no well, and so the sheriff has been an excellent partner in making sure that we carry on that. So the project is still in the planning stages, and we're looking to leverage existing staff, not to have a lot of ongoing added costs, but it would provide a safe and stable environment where people who are finding themselves having a really, really bad day, either they're higher in crisis, can get sober and learn other ways to access resources that do not drop into the jail and do not drop into the emergency room. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention affordable housing. If it's not a crisis, I don't know what one looks like. Something that we do when we every year look at our surplus lands and we look at opportunities where we may put things onto auction. And last year we decided that we would start looking at those land holdings and see if there are ways that we can get those land holdings back into home ownership or into affordable housing. And so last year, I believe it was 2 properties that we were able to partner. Was it 2? And then this year we have 2 new properties that we are able to partner with Habitat for Humanity. And we've had bare land and different other opportunities, as well as larger land holdings in the La Pine area for affordable housing. And then, of course, finishing the Regional Health Improvement Work Plan work to make sure that that work is carried out to support the health of our community.
Okay.
Next.
Okay.
So Skyliners was mentioned already, but that was done with a partnership with the Federal Lands Access Program. So $9 million came to our area, and Deschutes County brought in $1 million, or spent $1 million to support that project. Remember, that was basically a failed road. And then the pipeline, Bridge Creek Pipeline, went underneath that road. So then it was a gravel road, and it was a temporarily patched road, and now it is smooth as glass, and it's a project that's completed. We have 6-foot bike lanes on that road now too. So there is some wonderful economic value from that. Moving on to the Fair and Expo Center. The citizens, we taxed ourselves to build that facility many years ago, and we're coming to the end of that bond, in fact. We use, it's the best facility in the state. We're diversifying what's going on with that facility right now. So a 13% increase since August of 2014 in different kinds of events that are happening at our fairgrounds. 52 new events, including trade shows, conferences, sporting events, livestock events. So we have got quite a gem south side of Redmond, but it's all of Deschutes County's asset. And think about the economic impact and the opportunity to really bring a lot of people to Central Oregon for their focused events. Deschutes County is really very proud to partner with EDCO. We have business loans that we provide to businesses all around Deschutes County. In Bend this last year, 58 jobs were created with about a $75,000 loan going to some of those businesses. Tom Rowley's the Economic Development Director person for EDCO in Bend. Him and I went and toured Zamp Solar recently. They are manufacturing solar panels. When I heard that at our work session, I said, I want to go see that. And we did. We saw that they are manufacturing, taking silicon chips and creating panels out of it. But that is a bunch of jobs being created, a lot of good, steady jobs with benefits right here in Bend. Very exciting. Opportunities for our resilient economy. Long-term capital investment at the Expo Center. So what are we going to do with that facility? The bond is coming off. Next few years, we want to keep the investment going on, maintain the facilities, keep it up in great order. So we're able to budget for it this year. We've done a little bit of general fund support every year to really make sure we can change the carpets or paint that facility. It really does provide its own revenue sources with the events that are happening there. There's also a land opportunity just south of the fairgrounds. So we're looking at adding some more property contiguous to that facility. And there's talk of a possible sports complex. So we've got to figure out what would that look like, who would we attract, how could it provide its own revenue, what kind of investment would we want to make as a community to get something like that really rolling. We're very proud to partner with OSU Cascades. We've got this demo landfill co-located with their current site and the big other property out there. So that landfill used to have wood waste in it. I mean, it does have. We used to be the place to drop the wood waste and construction waste. We're working on a pilot project right now to figure out what would it look like to stabilize that, to excavate what's out of there, to really invest in raising the value of that property. If you look at a map, and kind of the maps that the City of Bend is working on right now, you know, it's just a big square. There's a lot of opportunity there, and Deschutes County is a big player in that. We've received some grants in support of doing that mitigation, analyzing what's in the ground, estimating, you know, what the investment would need to be to really get that back on to be usable land. With workforce investment, we take federal dollars, we partnership with the state, and then we also you know, work with COIC to figure out how do we get people back into the workforce. Right now we have East Cascades Workforce Investment Board. It's a 10-county partnership up and down the middle of the state, and we have our partnerships really getting people back in. If they've fallen out of the workforce, in fact, it's very important right now. I bet just about everybody in the room is looking for another employee or two at this point in time. Getting those people that haven't been in the workforce for a while, getting them back on track, getting them some education, getting them up to speed again for being able to join the workforce. ODOT's doing some big projects right now. Transportation is obviously an investment that we need to take care of all over the place. Each city, each county, and the state investment. We're a good partner with ODOT. Right now they're working on that median project just south of town. They got all the cones up. They're going to extend that median out past the High Desert Museum and really make that a little bit safer corridor. The speeds have been raised. We're all experiencing that. In fact, I don't know if you have experienced some intersection off of 97. Sun River has the interchange with some of the other intersections. When you're out there, the cars are whizzing by a little faster right now, so that's a safety issue also. We're happy to partner with the City of Bend in their economic development goals. So BDAB and Tom Rowley, EDCO's efforts, really getting those traded sector businesses, diversifying our economy, making sure that if we have a national or international slowdown in the economy, we have more resilient, more diversity to make sure that we have those careers that keep paying in good times and in bad, and we can respond a little quicker instead of just construction and tourism.
Back and forth. Thank you. With my part, it's fire prevention. And just to start off, we had our annual fire meeting this morning. That's where we bring our federal partners, Forest Service and BLM, our state partners, the Oregon Department of Forestry, our local fire, police, sheriff's department, emergency management, and 911, all come together to sit down with the meeting, and we look at the resources we're bringing to the table and what we expect to have in the summer, who's responsible for what, and we make sure we know everybody's phone numbers so that we can communicate the way we need to. And at that meeting, Deputy Chief Madden talked about prevention and fuel reduction as really being the cost-effective way to fight fire. And as we look at that, we can talk about the Deschutes Collaborative Forest Project, which is a federal project. We're in the 6th year of that. I want to thank Councilor Russell for attending and representing the city to it. And what we do is bring together recreation, environment, and industry to work on recommending to the Forest Service how we would like to see them treat the forest out there and support what they do. A lot of work's being done out in the West Bend where the Phil's Trail is, and it's a great thing. You know, it looks kind of bad now, but hey, that's what happens when you weed, and you need to let the forest recover, and then it'll look really great. We're having a few problems though, because people from outside the area, I won't say anybody's doing it here from Central Oregon, but they don't keep track of the signs, and they're out there in harm's way. Their dogs play on the log decks, and they ride their bikes to trails that are supposed to be closed, and they're in the way of a lot of the equipment that's out there doing the work. So when you see those people, make sure that they stay safe, because that's an issue we're really kind of worried about right now. Another project is Cohesive Wildland Fire Strategy. When Joe Stetler retired, he was our past forester. We kept him on to work at a federal level to help make this cohesive strategy be a reality. And then to kind of pay us back, Joe knows a lot of people, and we have helped us with bringing some of those projects to Central Oregon. So we have 2 projects. One of them is called the Two Chiefs Budget Project, which is a $1.2 million project, which is really in the Lapine Basin. It's northern Klamath County, southern Deschutes County, and it's there to protect firefighter safety, to create defensible space, and create healthy forests. So it's kind of that overarching path moving forward with the federal government to help with our forest restoration. FEMA grant, we call this our 2010 FEMA grant. It's really the 3rd one we've used, and we use them in conjunction with Project Wildfire, where we go out and educate and help people through sweat equity, clean around their houses, have defensible space. They create these huge piles of waste, and then we chip them up and haul them to the landfill, and we use them for part of the cover every day as we put trash in there and put cover over it so it doesn't blow all over and stays in the landfill. I don't want to talk about FEMA. They're really hard to work with, but hey, we have a grant and we're moving forward. Noxious weeds, our forester Ed Keith is in charge of that. It's a constant battle. Weeds come back every year. Every time you disturb the soil, more seeds grow. We have a weed board to help us keep on track with that. And as funds permit, we continue to battle the weeds and keep working on them. This last year, we in February 10th, we approved a Goal 11 exception. That's where in the land use law, the state has allowed us to use sewers and other types of things besides just septic to help with protecting our groundwater, and that's what we're doing. As we move into the future and there's more growth in South County, we want to protect that high quality groundwater that's there. But wouldn't you know it, we're at Luba right now because someone doesn't like our plan. But we're moving forward and we're happy about it. This last year at the road department, we partnered with Onboard Dynamics, a Bend-based technology company, where they're looking at compressing natural gas and use it as a fuel in vehicles. So we have a pickup truck, brand new. We have it set up so it can use gas or compressed natural gas. And we're testing the technology to see how we can cost effectively use it in the future. And if we can, you know, natural gas regulated by the PUC, the price doesn't go up and down every other day. It stays constant over the year. It's a cost-effective fuel for us. So we continue to seek out funds, whether it's state and federal, to work on fuel projects. Today we talked about the state investment in federal lands and how we need to make sure that people understand that the federal lands are here, but they're here in our state, our county, and we use them, so the partnership really works well for us. The spotted frog, yes, it was listed, and we have the best habitat across the state, or all western states. So it's a challenge for us as we lower the level of the Deschutes River and store water in the winter and then raise it in the summer. We can't keep those wetlands wet all the time. And we're going to move forward to figure out a plan for that. We're in federal court, but we're in a settlement through their process, so we're working to figure out a solution, and we can solve it. Water efforts. We have the Basin Study Working Group. It is a partnership between the Bureau of Reclamation and the Oregon Water Resource Department. The legislature gave them money plus some grants. It's a 3-year study to do just what we want to do, and Councilor Russell's over there helping us with that process too. What we're doing, and I don't want to talk much about it, I don't have a lot of time, but I put out there on the table some of these brochures that tell you all about what the Basin Study Work Plan is, but through that process we'll figure out how to regulate the river, maintain water for agriculture, and find new water for growing cities. So it's a great process. It's collaborative as long as we stay out of court, but we're working hard to work that thing as a collaborative process despite being in court. Controlled burn policy. We wrote a letter to the state and the federal government this last year saying, you're tying our hands here in Central Oregon with your smoke policy. Bend is a zero tolerance area, so is Redmond because of population. We understand that, but if you burn uphill from a community at 3 a.m. in the morning, you're going to have smoke. The air gets cold and the smoke goes downhill and you get an intrusion. This last spring, we had the smoke management people and we had the Forest Service and we had a lot of people out there managing a prescribed burn. Everybody said the weather was perfect, the conditions were perfect, go ahead and do that burn. So we did. We got an intrusion at 3 a.m. in the morning, so it's something we just have to try to work through. Not landfill. Well, we're keeping it open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. now. That means it's open on Sunday for you to go. Clap on that. We found it in our budget as we continue. It's an enterprise fund for us, meaning it supports itself, and as the economy grows, so does the waste out at the landfill. Elections. We put a new election ballot box drop site at the Old Mill District to help you be able to drop off your ballot as you're going to the movie so that you don't have any excuse not to vote. You know, we have motor voter now, and Nancy Blankenship, our county clerk, is encouraging younger voter turnout and partnershiping with, actually we have a, is that on TV, a commercial with 2 NBA basketball players who are Oregon natives talking about get out there and vote. The Singler brothers, they're from Medford. Great, thanks. And we're also with social media, we are informing people better. We have Whitney Hale here, who is a native, grew up in Bend, and she's doing all kinds of great things for us. And we're now on Nextdoor and Instagram, and I have no clue what Nextdoor is. So, next, reduce waiting times and awareness for veteran services. You have veteran service officers. They're people who work with veterans. They get their claim perfected and then put it into the state so you can have services. Without a veteran service officers, you can't get service from the Veterans Administration. So we are continuing to fund that. We have 2.5 positions in there. Keith McNamara is very busy. You'll see a commercial on TV. I'm not sure why we're trying to make him more busy. That means we have to give him more money, but hey, it's probably just the right thing to do. Community development. We are hiring up more and more because we've got more and more business. The other day, Nick Lilac was in with their work plan for this next year. I wish I could remember how many permits we went from 130 to 600 or something. We're growing here. We sign off plats as new developments occur, and it seems like we're getting 3 or 4 plats a week. So the economy's turned around, and we're working hard at community development to keep up with the growth, to hire on more inspectors, to make sure, and really with our inspectors, we don't have 4 inspectors go out to do 4 different things. We're cross-training our inspectors so one can go out and do 3 or 4 things in one inspection. So we're more efficient and we provide a much better service there. New software. Well, we've got both software like the city does in our HR department and in our finance department. In fact, we have paper records, and that's just a hassle. We're now spending $1.3 million, which we're loaning to ourselves, and then we will have the departments pay it back to us to have a new combined, I don't know what the name of the, Tyler maybe, or one of these groups, it's a $1.3 million program, but it's going to combine human resources and the finance department together to really do a much better job of managing all that. And it's a real hard lift. It's going to be a lot of work. We're going to have to look at how we integrate that. It'll take us a couple years to do it, but it's the right thing to do. And it probably should have happened 5 years ago, but if it did, we'd be having to do it again right now because software only seems to last 5 years. So with that, am I done? There you go.
Yeah, time's slipping away from us here. So effective asset management. We're in the office for our 4-year elected terms, but your level of government, we're going to be here for the rest of time. I think of effective asset management as our facility usage. Are we investing in what we need to be investing in, and making sure that we're growing with growing times right now. We've got some great things going on. Real great opportunity we had with our law library. So lawyers that need to have access to just case records and the big thick books, and they were getting dusty. We had an office for that at the county, and we determined let's work with the library. So I see Director Dunkelberg is here, in fact. Thanks for joining us. And now our Deschutes County Library System has access to those law books and the resources, the online systems also, all around the county. Talk about access to justice. Now the lawyers that need the access to that, but also somebody that really wants to figure out a case or get the information, it's available at our library system. Very exciting. We have built a juvenile detention facility. Before my time, part of it was never used. back in the day, we thought we were going to be growing into it. Luckily, the community, justice people, all kinds of folks figured out how not to be putting juveniles in detention, really harden them at a young age. So we have an opportunity to contract with JBAR Youth Services. They're going to be using some of these facilities for parole and probation kids that need some supervision. But we're renting that out and using that facility that was overbuilt, but for what a great reason for not using that. Not landfill, we've got more cells to be built out there. So right now you see there's kind of a curve pattern. If you ever drive by and look at it, you know, we're going to keep going around and dropping, pulling the rock out of there and putting garbage in for another generation or so. We'll see how many years it lasts. But really making some good investments to make that facility last a very long time. We've got our roundabout project out at Powell Butte. I don't know if anybody's been out there, just past the airport. A little bypass right now, can't even go across it. But that's going to be completed here in a couple months. What a great opportunity. But that was really an intersection that was dangerous. We had deaths at that intersection. It really registered high. We're needing some safety improvements. So I think that's kind of the first official road district, or road department said, let's go do a roundabout. So we've got a roundabout in the rural county now. So where the law library was is that Wall Street building. We're able to expand one of the health programs and really provide co-located services in where the law library was. We're redeveloping that property and giving it a new long-term life. So all these areas, we're looking at what does it look like 10 and 20 years out into the future. So the opportunities, we're doing our HR system, big computer transformation. We're doing it with time cards and HR and payroll, accounts payable, all the different parts and pieces of that. That's going to really help us for the next generation. We really strive to keep the high customer service levels by all of our departments. I'm really happy the other elected officials, department heads, and all the people that really provide services in Deschutes County. We have a great culture and a lot of pride in the customer service provided by each and every person.
Are we getting close to it?
Yeah, exactly. Let's wrap up.
Okay, let's wrap it up, because we want to also hear that top 10 and have some Q&A time.
Some questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. We all had more notes and we could all feel the pressure the whole time as we got started here. How do we get through
I'm
this?
sure. How about this? It is a huge amount of pressure to really, truly get up here and succinctly say all the work that you and your constituents and your partners have done. So a huge round of applause to all of them. The city and the county. I have a quick question for you. I want the audience to fill this out, and I want to ask permission. Commissioner Bainey, about how long is the top 10? I'm doing about 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. How about an idea? Lighten the mood a little. Would you be open to doing it now? And then we'll kick to Q&A? And that gives us... What's that?
You may not like me after it.
I doubt that. Whitney, are you okay with setting that up so that we can do that now? I say we do it now, have it out on the table for some levity, and then give ourselves whatever remaining time since it's starting to tick down for Q&A.
If you are easily offended, if you are sensitive to an issue that you may be a part of in the last year, if you're with the city or the chamber or Park and Rec or any of the, well, even though there's a little bit of us,
Go to the bathroom now.
if you feel sensitive today at all, or if you don't find edgy humor edgy and funny, then this may not be for you. So there's the disclaimer. And let me tell you how not funny centennial humor might be. So this is our 100th birthday, not me in particular, but yes, Deschutes County celebrating 100 years. And so this is the Deschutes County Top 10 News Stories Special Centennial Edition. Drum roll, please. So, okay, number 10, and these are the news stories. So we're going to do a 1916 to a 2016. 1916, public transit system comes to Bend, and that's a great group of women making it happen right there. And in 2016, Bend's public transit system gets an upgrade. Okay, thank you for laughing. I was worried. Number 9, okay, so 1916, elected the first term as Bend's mayor. And 2016, still okay, number 8 news story, President Wilson takes campaign to the ball field, and in 2016, Commissioner Unger, up for re-election, takes a page from the Wilson playbook. There he is. I was at the Elks game. Okay, so number 7. A federal trapper called in to manage the spotted frog population. And 2016, federal employee develops plan to manage the spotted frog population. And we did have Eric's face Photoshop in there. We couldn't do it. All right, so number 6. Oh, 1916, Mother Nature brings free ice rink to Bend, and yes, that's Troy Field. And in 2016, officials blow off Mother Nature and spend $11 million on a new ice rink. Ow, that one kind of hurt a little. Okay, number 5. Okay, Deschutes County citizens brewing over the threat of prohibition. And in 2016, Deschutes County citizens get lit up over proposed marijuana rules. Let our people grow. Okay, so number 4. You're still with me, I love it. Okay, 1916, Park District creates committee to study Marathon Still Tissue. And guess what? The study... This should be 1916. Loggers dominate Deschutes County's economy, and in 2016, loggers enter Deschutes marijuana. From logging to logger. Okay, number 2. Deschutes County splits from Crook over political differences, and in 2016, City Council splits from the Chamber over political differences. Just finding the right photo, though, was the hardest part. I mean, there's so many to choose from. Okay, so, and the number 1 top news story of the year is, in 1916, City of Bend road system in need of repairs, and...
so much. That was great. How about another round of applause for the work?
I have to say, we have a team effort, and to Judith Ure, who will not show her face here, probably because she said, if it's not funny, will I have a job? And so it's worked on diligently. Whitney, Tom, Eric, I mean, everybody, we just all... So anyway, it's a team effort.
We know it's a team effort, and we really appreciate it, because at this time, as we know, in any year that you've brought this to the table, it's been apropos and helped the community around. So thanks for being a great county to bring us all together too. Helps a lot. So with that, I want to give a big round of applause, but I'm thinking the time, it's straight up 7. I know we always honor people's time in the room. Are there any really burning questions that we want to make sure to get out on the table that haven't been addressed that we need to make sure? And if not, that maybe could go into casual time afterwards and networking. How about from out here?
They all want to be.
Yeah. How about, if you want to write them down on your cards and give them to any of the chamber staff table, we'll make sure we circle back around on those and give you an opportunity. And Eric.
I just want to acknowledge some of the staff that are here, and I forgot to do that. So Carolyn Egan, our Economic Development Director, Jillian Ochner, John Skidmore, and Susanna Gilbert work in my office, Russ Grayson, our Community Development Director. They would be happy to answer questions too afterwards.
I'd like to do the same, and I appreciate you doing that. I've neglected to mention that this also gets taken care of because of our fantastic advocacy council, but also our amazing board that supports all our efforts. And I know we have a couple board members in the room. I think if you'll raise your hand, is Michael Sipes here tonight? And then our chairman-elect, Rob Moore, is here with us tonight, always supporting What's Growing events as well. So a big round of applause to them too. And but most importantly, what an innovative way you started City of Bend tonight, throwing some things on the table. We'll circle back around. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sally, Commissioner Bainey, Unger, and DeBone. How about have a great rest of your evening. Thanks to all of you as well.